Welcome to the Past Life Regression radio show and Spirituality for Souls. I'm Jonathan Yorks. I'll be your host over the next 2 hours of this live call-in internet radio show based on the work I do in my private practice as a past life regression and life between lives regression therapist and spiritual counselor. We're streaming live here at the Go Network every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. This is a call-in program, so please, tonight, especially tonight, I'd like you to call in. The number here is 857-366-5444, and the reason why I would want you to call in tonight, because tonight is all about the spirituality of the soul. So tonight, we go to the spiritual classroom, and I want you to raise your hand if you have questions, if you have comments, or any kind of feedback. Feel free to message me on Facebook. I'm here on Facebook Live. Or you can call in at, again, 857-366-5444. Or you can text me, if you like, on my phone at 617... What is my phone number? 617-875-6686. I forgot my own phone number. I love when that happens. And you can text me information. You can text me a question or comment. I will look at these things in between breaks. But along the way, we will be taking calls at some point all around the spirituality of the soul. And I'll get much more deeply into it in a little bit. But like before and like other shows, we're going to start off with a quick recap of last week's show and unfinished business. And you're going to want to stick around for the unfinished business. It is an amazing story, something that happened over this past week that I just love how life works because it further feeds into everything we're going to be talking about today. It's an awesome story. And for those who love those spiritually based stories, this is a good one. So stick around for the unfinished business. So last week's show, as far as a quick recap, and I want to explain something about quick recaps. Quick recaps are all about really not just going through the recap of last week's show, giving you an outline, but any other insights or points that I wanted to make along the way that may have gotten lost in all the conversation I'm having and all the information I'm giving. So I'm just going to really pop through, make these little points with you along the way, and then move on to unfinished business. So last week is about life between lives and the afterlife. And it was based on the work of Dr. Michael Newton in his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And when I talked about it in the beginning, I was mentioning that I was going to talk about the process of life between lives regression, how I take my clients through and facilitate the life between lives regression process and methodology of Dr. Michael Newton. Well, that's going to happen in a future program. It'll be like a life between lives regression radio show part 2. So in the first show, it was really more about the afterlife, because really isn't that what we're all interested in? As much as we all want to take these life between lives regression journeys, it's really about what takes place in the afterlife. And so I described a little bit, one, how Dr. Newton first came upon this phenomena about the afterlife when he took a client through a past life regression, and the client transitioned into an afterlife memory. And if you're interested, certainly read into that. From there, I talked about and I read about something from Dr. Newton's book, Destiny of Souls, and I talked about the birthing of souls and how we are generated. And the one point I want to make in the description I provided and what was read in that moment from the book of Destiny of Souls is this high energy field from which souls seemingly are generated from. That the one thing that really sticks out for me is this is a field of love, where we seem to be emerged, not just from an energetic field, creating an energetic matrix that is our spiritual being, but we emerge from actually a state, a feeling state, what this person under deep hypnosis described in their life between lives regression as a nursery keeper, as love. And then I talked about when we are emerging from these fields that generate our existence, how we're received by these nursery keepers, how we're placed in these incubators of sorts that were described, and they've been described in many ways. One way is describing as like an infinite field of like honeycomb-shaped places in which souls are, environments which souls are placed within. And I talked about how these nursery keepers, their specialization is not only just identifying our spiritual ego in the moment, but also awakening us, not by telling us who we are, but by telling us we are there. And then once we make that distinction, that differentiation, once we distinguish us from another, we eventually moved off to what one client described as a place of play. And this place is, think of it like spiritually learning to walk. because this is a place where it's a field of energy, like a playground. And souls are working on their energetic frequencies to get on and get off of different apparatus, different kind of playground apparatus. And doing that, we are learning how to walk, so to speak. And the way we learn to walk is learning how to use our energy. I then describe that in that space, not only are there those overseeing us, the playground overseers, so to speak, but guides are coming in, and they're watching how we group, who our tendencies to meet, seeing and feeling our personalities. Eventually, we are placed in groups, what we called our soul groups. I went over the different distinctions in soul groups from primary and companion and the souls in the neighborhood called the affiliated souls. And so, again, more interested in that sort of that information, absolutely. But I want to talk about, as far as the soul group, that the soul group is a process support group. There we go. I got myself back on track. The soul group is a process support group. And that is really what it is. It's our soul family. These are souls we have journeyed with for eons of time, eons of generations of human lifetimes. And in that way, the bottom line is they're our process group. They're our support group. And they work within many ways. And we're unique within the group, but we all share a common distinction. And then I talked about a little bit about soul development. And, the interesting thing about soul development is this. We come in as these pure white light beings, really initially undifferentiated from the field of all life. Then once we start to make that distinction, our frequency alters. And we move through seemingly these frequency fields that really emit like layers of color of light. And Dr. Newton in his book describes the different maturation, the different, he describes it as like the levels. Now, I'm not a big fan of levels. I don't believe in the levels of hierarchy, although I do recognize a maturation process, an advancement process that we all go through as souls. And like I mentioned there before, no soul is greater or lesser than another. We are all essential in the droplets within the ocean of all life. We are all expressions of life. And in that way, we are all essential to life itself. Okay, then I brought in the guides, and I talked about the different kinds of guides. That we have one primary guide, but also there are junior guides. There are guides in training. There are souls as we develop. We do take on these roles, and we do take, I guess you could say, jobs, but only based on our interest. What it is we see that naturally enhances our being and is a natural extension of our expression of who we are and our spiritual nature and character as souls. It's very cool stuff. Check it out, of course. I then talked about in the last show about the incarnation, about the transition process, about when you leave a last lifetime and you come into your afterlife experience, how you're greeted, who you're greeted by, and a series of things like that. It's very amazing, this phenomena of greeting, because when we are greeted, it's not always by loved ones. Sometimes we are greeted by our spiritual guides. Sometimes we are greeted by ones we would call restoration specialists. And ones I would call just greeters. It's like their station is to kind of be an energetic presence as we're moving along. Now, there are many layers, by the way, of transitioning noted in Dr. Newton's books. We're going to go through that because think of this as frequency attunements. When you leave a lifetime, you are attuning yourself back into the spiritual dimension. But if there's anything going on within your psyche which generates the field of experience around you, you may not go all the way there. You may have different stops along the way. And we'll talk one time at some point about that particular station, what it's like to transition in some of the stations, some of the frequency fields, seemingly that souls have gone through and are going through. Absolutely. So I also talked about what we do with our guides afterwards, how they lead us through an orientation, kind of more of a debriefing process, and really not asking us how we, you do good, you do bad. We're not doing that type of work there. What they're doing is just checking on us, how we're doing, how you feeling, how you going, how you think you did, things like that. The beauty of judgment in the spiritual dimension is there is no judgment. The only ones judging us are us. And that's just a recognition that we've all come across. I then talked about where we may head off to as souls. Some go to libraries, some go to soul groups, some go right to council, and I described what the council meeting was and how we basically go to two different kinds of council meetings. The first meeting is the meeting of when we come back and they just want to check in with us, but also ask us questions around the choices we made. You took conditions in a prior lifetime. You made choices to be someone, and the challenges they were going to create, this is what you did. Tell me, what went on, and they further help enhance the realization, the recognition of what we are, what we feel we've done conceptually, and we start flourishing it through our minds. And as we do, we enhance the understanding. And this is what our master guides, the ones we call our council members, that's what they're about. We come back for a second meeting, but this is more about the planning of the next lifetime. And that has more to do with, okay, you're choosing to go into as this persona with these challenges, these characteristics, these conditions. Tell us about the choices you're making and what you hope to achieve. They don't tell us what they want to see us achieve. As much as we may ask, and as much as in the Life Between Lives regression, I may ask that question. And we'll talk about how we get our answers in Life Between Lives regression. Again, at the show when we talk about Life Between Lives regression, the process. And what I do as a therapist to facilitate the process and the knowledge that comes through my clients' minds. At that point, when I talked about the council, I talked about that in these environments, the atmosphere is imbued with a feeling of presence. And that's just one of the most kind of awe-inspiring aspects of the spiritual dimension. That the atmosphere itself, the air, so to speak, is imbued with a presence. And we feel that presence. And it feels us. And there's this incredible acceptance and love from this atmospheric experience, this atmospheric presence in the spiritual dimension. We're going to talk about that at some point, because what that presence is and how we relate to it all, it's a fascination, and it's worthy of exploration, even talking about the atmospheric presence within the spiritual dimension. Let's see. The other things I talked about, in the last show, beyond anything else that you may be interested in as far as what I talked about the afterlife, I also talked about the place of life and body selection and how I chose the body of Jonathan and what we do when we're making these choices and the environment that it's like within this place of life and body selection. And the one thing I wanted to emphasize, that I emphasized last show, was this: that your body, the one you are in right now, that it is its own consciousness. And in that it's its own consciousness, it responds intimately to your mind. Now, whether or not you believe you have a soul or how the soul plays its role, mind-body science is real. And your body feels your love. And your body feels your discontent. It expresses it. It communicates to you through sensation. And in doing that, it lets you know your relationship with it. Now, of course, all our bodies have tendencies. All our bodies have vulnerabilities and susceptibilities, of course. But even in the moment of vulnerability and susceptibility, it doesn't excuse you from loving your body, because your body is your companion. And I described the story of me running out into the middle of a street and how I knew intimately, many, many, many years later, my body went for the ride, and it knew the trauma I was about to enter into. That, to me, that's a fascination. And that's going to be part of what further we're going to be talking about today, about the spirituality of the soul. Because in the spirituality of the soul, the one thing that is most essential to understand is your relationship to life. And that is something that we will go much more deeply into as we talk about the spirituality of the soul. Okay. What else did okay. That's pretty much it last week. There's some other things. I don't want to go further into it. I was told try to keep this part short, and wouldn't you know it, I don't keep it as short as, of course, as I want to be, but I will refine it and get better and better and better as I do it. But now I want to get into unfinished business. The unfinished business is fantastic. Over and over again, because I do this work, I hear these stories. And this is a story. It's almost like a part 2. So the story I told you last week in Unfinished Business. And I talked about last week in Unfinished Business that when I did my show, the second show, the show when I introduced past lives and as such, that I didn't have my energy. I felt flat. I felt uninspired. I woke up in one of those moods, those energies that you just can't get rid of throughout the day. You got to cope with it and just be mindful of it. And after I left the show, and I just felt totally flat. And this person helped me see through this correspondence that what I was looking for in the end was not just doing something that had meaning for me, but that had meaning for others. That what I do, folks, doesn't just speak to you as a curiosity, doesn't just speak to you as entertainment, then I'm not talking to your human ego in this moment. I am talking to you as a soul. And as I do, I want you to feel that whatever it is that moves within you, that wants to acknowledge you, that wants to affirm this particular relationship that you have to life itself in the human life that you are in. So when I communicate, I know I'm talking to the human persona that's listening, but no, I'm speaking to your soul. At least I'm doing my best. Because what's the purpose of this show today? To help you see your life through your spiritual eyes and think through your spiritual mind as a soul. So what is the part 2 of this unfinished business from the last week? Well, it's this. I got another email from this person. I'm going to read just a segment of this email because the fascination of what took place really just, it's awe-inspiring. So be patient with me in a moment as I move this up into my field. Okay. All right. Now this is what this email was. There's a few paragraphs into it, and she writes, "One interesting tidbit I want to pass on to you. When my husband died, I went through an awful time and felt threatened physically, emotionally, and financially. He couldn't reach me directly as I was in such a state. So he came through to my house cleaner, who never knew before that she had mediumship capabilities. My husband knew I believed in this ability, and I used her as an incredible voice to help me keep my sanity. She could actually carry on a conversation with him in my house and see him as if he were in this world. He also told her that he loved this song. And I hope you're okay that I say this song. The song is this: Say You Won't Let Go. She and I never heard of it until then. It's about the life of a couple over time and then through death." The last paragraph. "The first Wednesday of your radio show, at the end of the show, music pops on, which surprised me. Of course, it was Say You Won't Let Go, which has such a special meaning to me. It also isn't played very often at all any longer. It was my husband's way of telling me that he was tuning into your frequency too, and with me." Now that to me is a fascination. See, the Go Network plays music after the shows all the time. And there are millions and millions of songs out there to play. And after the very, very first show that I'm doing this, and she tunes in, it's the very first song that comes up. Now let's face it, most people tune out after I'm done. They just shut things off. But she didn't. And this song came up. So you tell me, in those moments, what are we supposed to discover? Why do we ignore such phenomena? I hear these stories all the time. Perhaps we'll do a whole show of these stories. There are inspiring, incredible stories. But that very first song, and the Go Network doesn't play your common everyday music. The very first song was the one he had mentioned to the housekeeper, the one that she did not know of. That to me is just an awe-inspiring moment. I hope it awe-inspires you too, because it really is incredible when you think of it. So thank you very much to that person who has been so kind to share herself and share her emails with me and allow me to share with you. Because through this, again, I grow and I know, and through this, hopefully, you are inspired. That's an incredible story. If you have stories like that, call, share them. 857-366-5444. Tonight, we'll see if we have access to those stories or not. But if not, feel free to share them through an email with me, and I'll mention them, and maybe even send me a contact, and I'm more than happy to call you and share a story with you, and perhaps if you want to share a story on the show. So there's many opportunities for us to connect. As far as the next segment of the show, is going to be kind of moving along these lines, because it's about the spirituality of the soul. But it's not just about us as souls going through human lifetimes. We're going to talk a lot about that. But we're also going to talk about us as souls and how we exist through what I call 4 dimensions of self. Because as a soul, you are a spiritual ego. You are a self. Your uniqueness in all of life, your unique energetic matrix isn't just a unique energy form of life. It's also a unique form of its consciousness, depicted in your spiritual character as a soul. Your uniqueness can only express through you. No one is like you in all of existence. You are unique. We are all, like fingerprints, unique in the spiritual dimension as souls in our journey through lifetimes, through life forms. It's why to gain knowledge of our spiritual nature, our spiritual character, and to evolve it through lifetimes. But how do I do it? What is the operating system? How do I see through my spiritual eyes and process and understand my life through my spiritual mind as a soul when I am filtered? So I'm dominated within the filter of my human self. In this next segment, I'm going to tell you how to distinguish this. I'm going to tell you how each one operates. I'm going to help you see how they all work together. And I'm going to give you some pointers on how you can work with them. And as you start to gain this understanding of this little introductory knowledge of you as a soul and your spirituality, because face it, we understand human spirituality. We get human spirituality. It's depicted in religions and certain philosophies of life. But this isn't that spirituality. As a soul, you have a spirituality. And you operate through dimensions of life, dimensions of self. And when you know what each one stands for, when you understand how each one operates and how they all relate together, when you are presented with a challenge, you now engage the aspect of your awareness where wisdom comes through you, where enlightened moment of responsive expression as opposed to reactive expression comes from you. It's an amazing phenomenon when you start to relate to your life through the paradigm of your spirituality as a soul. So we're going to talk much more about that in the next segment of the show, and it's going to be all about that. Again, we're going to the spiritual classroom today, and in that way, please raise your hand. Either call or Facebook message or text me a message. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your question. I would love to be clearer. My background, just so you know, my background is in academia. I actually taught at Cal State University in their California alcohol and drug programs for their case managers who are moving through their undergraduate programs. And I taught intro to psychology, and I taught case management and the diagnostic statistical manual. So I'm much more accustomed to speaking in a much more academic way. And if I do that and you find that you're losing me or you have a question, you need clarification, please, this is the time to raise your hand. I want you to understand this. And even though this is an introductory show to all this, I want you to understand this today as best you can. It's worthy of understanding. Because to ignore it, then you ignore what it is you are, what is going on here, and how you can best operate within the fields of life that you exist within. In that way, you gain the true power of your nature, not only as a soul, but as a being of life. And we're going to talk all about that in the next segment. As far as going into the next segment, I just want to let you know that if you can't stay on, you want to come back, you want to listen to the show, you can catch it on Facebook Live at Jonathan York's MALMFTCHT, a bunch of titles that I've gained over the years. And you can go to my video section and see the replay of the video. I am in the process of creating a YouTube channel, and I'm gonna do my best to edit the video so that you can the best flow, so you can be in the YouTube channel. I'm also going to be creating or going on to some podcast sites like iTunes and such, so you can listen to it as well. If you want to listen to it after it's already been recorded. As well, of course, if you have any questions or If you just want to talk about doing the work, the past life regression, life between life regression, or the spiritual counseling, I offer an initial telephone consult, totally complimentary. There is no charge for this consult. I'll spend about 20 minutes or so on the phone with you. I just want to hear what you're looking for so I can better understand how I can be helpful. And through that, you are never obligated to schedule a session. Like I said last time, it doesn't work that way. You have to come in under your own power, your own guise. I can't sell you on this work. Then it wouldn't be right. The energies we would share wouldn't be resonant. And that's what I most want to share with you. That's how I tune in. That's how I help. So in the next segment, you're going to hear much more of how I counsel people. It's all about seeing your life through your spiritual eyes, understanding it through your spiritual mind, and the 4 dimensions of yourself that you exist within as a soul. I think we're ready to move along. See you in 5.
In a world filled with many distractions, would it be incredible to find a way to get lost in your own choosing? Do you love to hear Chris audio from your favorite podcasts? Have you ever felt like the soundtrack to a movie or video game would sound greater if there was a better way to deliver sound? Bear Dynamic closed-back studio headphones are a perfect tool for any sound enthusiast. Plug in your Bear Dynamic headphones and go on an audio escape. The Bear Dynamic DT770 Pro headphones are a favorite amongst music producers, sound engineers, and broadcasters all over the world. If you're not prepared to compromise on studio sound, visit www.beardynamic.com. That's www.beardynamic.com and get your own pair now. Whether for home or on the go, it is the right product for every need.
Every day, noon and midnight, tune in to Gag Order Network for twice-a-day interview replays of your favorite stars and celebs. Hear about George Clinton's Boston connection.
Where did Dr. Funkenstein obtain his doctorate?
Oh, Berkeley, Boston. Yeah, I got my doctorate.
Find out what X Factor winner Melanie Amaro is up to.
Working on music with different producers and meeting with different writers and whatnot. So I'm working. I'm definitely working.
Every day at 12 p.m. and 12 a.m., we're replaying your favorites, like how Anchorman and Saturday Night Live star David Koechner got started.
Then I visited a friend up in Chicago. I went to a show at the Second City. I noticed that they taught classes, and it's like a light bulb went off. That's how you get here. You study.
Giving you more of what you want here on GagOrderNetwork.com. You can also download the TuneIn app, search Gag Order Network, and now you can set your TuneIn autoplay to launch at noon and midnight.
Aren't you tired of your plain white walls? Do you ever wonder why you feel uninspired at the office or feel like your home lacks character? It's always the same boring walls over and over again. Well, it's time for a change. Visit walldecore3d.com and order wall panels that will turn your walls into beautiful and extravagant looking accent walls. The 3D wall panels give an extra dimension and complement just about any room. Their current selection includes plant fiber wall paneling, MDF wood wall panels, mosaic real wood paneling, and thin slate stone veneer. Remember, that's walldecore3d.com. Order now and add some depth to your life.
So who are the real original housewives? Well, Sarah, Esther, Mary, and Ruth. Proclaim this and other Bible references on a shirt at OneBodyOneSpirit.com. One Body, One Spirit is a Christian-themed clothing store for ladies and men that allows believers to express their faith, glorify God, and start conversations through something as simple as a t-shirt. Plus, a portion of every purchase is donated to charities. Their website is Spirit.com to view their clothing selections. OneBodyOneSpirit.com.
Are you in need of stickers, be it for personal or business use? Then you need to go to StickerU.com right now. That's StickerYOU.com. Sticker U is passionate about providing you and your business with the highest quality custom stickers, labels, decals, and iron-ons. They can even make you temporary tattoos. If you want to stick out from the competition, then you need Sticker U, as Sticker U provides the best platform in the world to create custom products that make you stick.
If you're just hearing about Monk Therapeutic Air for the first time, it's a recyclable diffuser that promotes mood change and life-enhancing effects through our custom blends of essential oils and the ancient practice of aromatherapy. Monk is the simplest aromatherapy device in history. You don't have to know anything about essential oils. We do all that for you. Simply pick the way you want to feel, open your Monk, and breathe in as your Monk diffuses an eclectic blend of essential oils and wild plant extracts. Monk is available in 7 different blends, all of which are organic, natural, and free of nicotine, tobacco, or artificial chemicals. Visit monq.com to learn more.
Has your computer seen better days? Is it always freezing and lagging? Are you constantly plagued with pop-ups and viruses? Are you not able to get any work done? You don't need a new computer. You need Phoenix Technology Support. With just one call to Phoenix Technology Support, you will never have to stress over the hassles of taking your computer to a repair shop again. Just leave your computer right where it is and let us come directly to you. Phoenix Technology Support has over 10 years of experience in the industry of customer support and IT solutions, and it's the best place for help with all of your home or business electronics. From gaming systems to tablet setups, smartphones to smart TVs, even business servers and emails. We will help set up or troubleshoot almost any technology in your home or office. So next time you think your technology is at the end of its life, have it rise from the ashes like a phoenix by calling Phoenix Technology Support at 617-658-3240. That's 617-658-3240, or go to www.phoenixtechboston.com.
Have you always wanted to make your own podcast? Or had dreams of becoming the next social media influencer? Don't let office space and equipment be what gets between you and your dreams. New studio space is now available through the Go Network. The Go Network is a multimedia broadcast company that currently hosts live radio shows and podcasts. With microphones to fit all guests, the ability to video record interviews, a stage for band performances, and an editing suite to put your audio and video content to the next level. The Go Network will provide assistance with producing, editing, sponsorship outreach, marketing, and more. You can create the podcast or web series you want with the lower price tag. Visit our studio location in Norwood or our audio suite in Canton. For more information, call us at 857-445-0424 or email us at info@gonet.com. That's info@geauxnet.com.
I'm Jonathan Yorks, and you're listening to the Past Life Regression Radio Show. Spirituality for Souls. I'm Jonathan Yorks, your host over the next hour and a half until 9 o'clock of this live call-in internet radio show based on the work I do in my private practice as a past life regression and life between lives regression therapist and spiritual counselor. At the end of the last segment, I wasn't very clear. I wanted to make certain I was clear about something. If you want to contact me, you can go to jonathanyorks.com. Or you can go to mysoulmyself.com for any reason. You can schedule an initial telephone consult. It is a complimentary consult. I spend about 20 minutes or so with you. I just want to get to know you, hear about why you're calling, and see if I can be helpful for you. There is never an obligation to schedule a session. It's my pleasure to do so because you can tell I love talking about this stuff. I also want to make certain that I really emphasize that amazing point about how this woman's song and what she was told and how the song came on after the very first show. It really is an incredible thing. So hopefully I got goose pimples. I don't know if I told it well enough to get the goose pimples from you, but it was goose pimply for me, that's for sure, because I'm amazed by such things. Really, totally amazed. Okay, this segment, the spirituality of the soul. This is my favorite part. You know, as much as I love doing past life regression work and as much as I'm fascinated in awe of life between lives regression, to me, what probably came about through all the work I've done is the realization that souls have a spirituality. You know, in my background, I studied psychology, and I'm licensed in the field out in California, but no longer practice traditionally. And I was raised I was educated through systems theory to see things through a macro lens and how all the parts fit together to create the unified cohesion of a whole. Yet in that, my fascination was in a very micro view of ego psychology. Love ego psychology. That's the reason why, I can still see myself lying in my bed before I went off to graduate school, looking in the dictionary and looking for the definition of ego in the dictionary. Yes, it's before the internet. If it had the internet, I would have Googled it, but I couldn't Google it. So I'm looking through a dictionary because that's what I had available to me at the time. I don't believe I had an Encyclopedia Britannica or anything like that. So that was the internet, if you remember way back when, the Encyclopedia Britannicas and such. So in that way, that has been my first fascination, the ego self. And as I've done this work personally, working through my own personal past life regressions, I talked about some of that in the very first show, as well as professionally, having done close to, anywhere, I haven't last counted, 2,800 plus past life regressions. And I'm amazed that the phenomena continues to repeat itself. And under the guise of this phenomena, I always wondered, of course, who's driving the car. And like I've said before, we're going to have a really big show about that one day, but this is not the show. More, this show is about how do we operate as souls within the fields that we operate through? And what are the fields that we operate through as souls as we incarnate into our human lifetimes? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't know this information, then you are operating at a loss. You are operating unconsciously. And good for you if life has flourished in a way that has brought about the beauty of experience of your being. But if it has not, then you have the capacity within you already to create the relationship to your life that is innate in your existence here as a soul. So, what is the spirituality of the soul? Well, in the very first show when I talked about past life regression work, I said that, past life regression is based on the consideration that we are souls that incarnate through human lifetimes to learn life lessons and grow. And then we choose the conditions of the lifetime. It could be the gender, it could be the social, environmental, financial, relational, mental, physical. It doesn't matter the condition we choose. We choose conditions that are going to challenge us to grow through. And by growing through these conditions, through these challenges, we evolve, we enlighten, we get to see how we respond in relation to the challenges. And how do we respond? Through choice and the expression of choice through word or deed or written or any other expression that has an impact or effect of taking something within you and moving it out from you and expressing itself through you and from you. So in that light, as a soul, our spirituality is wrapped up in every human lifetime we exist within. We are here to learn life lessons. We are here to grow. We are here to evolve. And you do it through your own uniqueness, through your unique version of life and the lifetimes you've lived through. But that doesn't encapsulate your entire spirituality. Your spirituality goes much more deeply. I can't get the word. I know that's not the right way to put it, but it goes much deeper than you can fathom. Or actually, I would say this way, not that you can fathom, that we have been led to believe. Because there's a lot of evidence out there about the work I do. It wasn't like taking a weekend course. It wasn't like reading a single book. Even though I mentioned the books in the very first show, the books that I came across, those books are the tip of the iceberg of the library, the books that I've read. Because I needed to see much more than just what was known to me. I almost felt like after my uncle's death, and I talked about in the first show, I needed to re-educate myself. And along the way, I studied psychology. I studied the ego and everything else that had to be in relation to the psychological nature of life. But I wasn't full. I wasn't filled with the awareness. And going through my own personal past life regressions, I became more aware, going through the life between lives regression, reading Dr. Newton's books, and understanding consciousness and psyche and psychology. I'm going to relate to you now. What I understand is what is going on here, how it works, and how you can be, I'm going to use the word successful, but that's not the right word, how you can fulfill the intention of the life you are living. So let's begin the journey into the spirituality of the soul. And as I mentioned before, you as a soul, I'll say it this way. You as a being of life. See, we use the word soul. and we kind of contextualize this ethereal nature that seems to leave the lifetime, the life body after death. And from much of the view, especially the view of past traditions of belief, the soul is somewhere in the back seat, kind of sitting in the passenger, as the human experience, the human ego drives the vehicle, listening to the whispers of the soul in the back of the mind, sometimes taking the right turns, sometimes not taking the right turns. And we're going to get into conversations about that kind of information and understanding and how we develop that information, how we became to believe we have souls, and how we became to believe in deity in the first place through the human animal's evolution through time, through millennia of time. But the point of this conversation in this moment is that as a being of life, you operate through 4 dimensions of self. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the field of psychology, the background I have, see, all schools of thought are based on the understanding of a self. And the self is contextualized through different features that you can work with in a psychological way. There's the intrapsychic self, the self of consciousness, of internal processing, of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung and others like them. There is the cognitive self, the self of mind. This is where we deal with cognitive distortions, cognitive schemas, how you are mentally wired, so to speak. Now, there's other aspects of self as well. Of course, there is also the humanistic self. There is the behavioral self. And there is the existential self. Now, of course, affective as well. But we kind of cognitive, affective, we kind of move that all in the kind of the same stream, although to me, just so you know, and it's going to be part of our talk today, thoughts and feelings, 2 sides of the same coin. Feelings are suitcases packaged with thoughts. And if it's a negative feeling, you can guarantee you have filled that suitcase with negative thoughts. I'm going to talk about maybe today, if I can get to it, if I remember it, about how I help my clients open up their suitcase and expose all those negative thoughts that are within that feeling. So through the understanding of this, the realization that we exist psychologically through these different experiences as an intrapsychic being, as a behavioral being, as a cognitive being, affective as well, as a humanistic being, and as existential being. The existential being is all about the meaning of your life. The humanistic being is all about the authenticity of your being and the genuine expression of that. The cognitive, of course, is all about the mental framing of your being. The affective is really more of a feeling state. It lets you know, it's feedback to let you know how you're tuned in, how you're wired, so to speak, through the sensorium into feeling. Now, of course, there's other aspects as well. So it's, as I went through existential, intrapsychic, behavioral, humanistic, and cognitive. And that's the human psychology. But that's not you as a soul. You are so much more than that. See, that is what your human self operates through. But we as souls, we operate through much greater dimensions of self, much more expansive. And again, I'll refer to us right now as beings of life. I know that's kind of deep, but let me explain. Because as a being of life, an expression of life, and I talked about it last week when I talked about souls being birthed, and I mentioned it again today, we are these sparks, these individuated, unique, energetic formations. Each frequency unique, each soul unique. No 2 are the same. And in that way, as we are expressed in this way, we qualify it and we call it a soul. But that is just one expression of yourself. You exist through other expressions. There is the expression of your one self. Now, what does the one self mean? The one self is the realization that everything is one. That when we break it down to its purest essence, this is a oneness. And I mentioned, I think, in the first or second show about the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation principle of energy, that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Now that's a significant scientific fact, because we are made of energy. And if I can't be created or destroyed, what happens to me? And what's my relation to everybody else, all the other energies around me? See, I am not separate from the field. You are not separate from the field of energy. We are crystallized formations, droplets, unique within it, all in a momentary interaction of a now experience, influencing each other and affecting the field that we all are as these little individuated forms in the collective of what we'd call the source of life or the all of life. And when I talked about, I know that may have sounded confusing, so ask questions if it gets confusing. When I talked about in the show, in the Life Between Lives Regression show, that the intention is seemingly that as we're birthed, the source of our life is altered. And as it's altered, we go through our journeys. We eventually go from incarnation back into a cycle of integration, back into Source itself. And when we do that, Source is constantly being altered. It's constantly being affected. It's constantly learning about itself. It's constantly knowing itself. And like I've told you, and like I've said before, if I have a self, if you have a self, then, and we are life itself, we are not separate from life. We are generated from it. My cells to molecules, my molecules to atoms, my atoms to subatomic particles, all the way down to my collection of wave patterns. And in that way, what generates my wave pattern existence is the field of life itself. I'm just a uniqueness as you are within the field of life. In the first law of thermodynamics is a huge realization. Because the realization is this, the realization is this, that the oneness of life helps us understand our relationship to each other. Our relationship to anyone who is in your life. It is purposeful. It is intentional. See, in the idea of oneness, we are not connected to each other. There's no tube or lattice that goes and connects all of us and creates this geometric pattern that we call oneness. No, we are different forms of each other. And that is a very incredible shift in realization. It's a big bite of the apple that we are a one self. And in doing that, why do I not do to others that I wouldn't do to myself? Because the other is myself. Just another form, as I'm another form of us. So many people ask me, all right, Jonathan, that sounds great, but how does oneness work? I'll tell you. And then one day we'll get into a show much more about oneness and the expression of oneness. But for today, this is all around the spirituality of the soul. And this is what we know as a soul. That we are intimately in relation to each other, that we are different forms of one another. And the way we can understand this as oneness in the human experience is this. On your body, a singular body, you have a finger and you have a toe. And I don't know about you, but I have stubbed my toe in my life. And when I have, I ache and I am disturbed and my entire psyche is altered. Does my finger hurt? No. But my entire energetic experience is drawn down and goes into a lower pattern of experience because my toe is pulsating. And for days until it heals, I am altered energetically. And that's how oneness works. See, if you're bitten, you will have the physical expression of bruise, but we will all feel that's a snap of my fingers, instantaneous effect of bruising. That's how oneness works. And that's the value that we share with one another. So if you have somebody in your life who is an opposer, so seemingly in your mind, oppositional, someone who seems to be against you, they are not. They are collaborators. And that's as souls what we know, because when you see the other as collaborator, as a spiritual co-conspirator, as a partner who raised their hand in the spiritual dimension and said, I am going to express in this way and we share karma and you will draw this from me and this is going to challenge you because it's going to generate a condition within you and I'm going to have to deal with the experience of the effect of that, what I do to you, and you'll have to deal with it as well. But we do this with love because you raise your hand asking, hey, I need help. I'm looking to have this experience. I need this condition within me. And the one who said, yes, I will be that opposer to you. No, You know, as a soul, these are no opposers. And if you find difference, if you find this idea that, Jonathan, the people in my life, the people who have done bad to me, wrong to me, the people who have mistreated me all my life and everything else about that, no, these are my people. These are my others. These are my opposers. They don't get my time, attention, and energy. And I say to you, you don't realize it. They are stored within your psyche as a soul. They are stored within your energetic experience in this life. And it's your responsibility. Let me pause for a second. It is your responsibility to be aware of that. So when you are activated, you respond through your spiritual mind, and you're able to see that their relation to you is here to help you grow. The only reason. Bottom line, this theater, the theater that we all exist in this human experience, what I call sometimes the theater of the absurd. This theater is a theater to grow through, pure and simple. Now, the irony is this: as we help the human species evolve, well, then it's evident that we are evolving too. And as we continue to fracture within the species, as we continue to focus on the otherness, on the distinctions of what it is that that are unalike versus the realization that we are nothing but alike. We are different forms of ourselves. I devalue you, then I devalue me. I bite you, I bruise. Although I wouldn't bite you, but that's how it works. So oneness as a soul, as a spiritual realization, helps you understand your relationship. Hey, you don't have to like it, and you can feel contention in your mind around this. That's totally fine. That's your defense mechanisms kicking in. Welcome to your human self and all the experience of whatever patterns have generated the neurological wiring in your head that brings about whatever negative thought or feeling you have about another. That is an illusion. You can live in illusion, or you can live enlightened. The first thing you need to be aware of is that this is a oneness. Science helps us see that. I'm going to be having, hopefully, friends and others in the field of physics where we can have a wonderful conversation about the physics of oneness. That'll be a good conversation to have. Now, the next expression of our being, the being of life that we are, is the spiritual expression, what I call the divine self. Now, I didn't make up that term, certainly. It's a term that we engage. The divine self we title the soul. This is the part of us that comes through with intention. And through intention, we move through lives. Now, what is intention? Intention is actually a mental expression, meaning an expression of mind. And through intention, we are souls, we're energetic beings. As life beings, we are beings of energy. And as these beings that we title souls, we take in and we are recording energy. We are recording experience. That's what we are. We are recording systems, but we are awakened, aware beings that are recording systems, just like your brain has done ever since you were in the womb to the time of even now. We're going to talk about that in the neural self in a little bit. But as far as the divine self, this is the part of you that is all about the intention to grow. Oh, we use life purpose, and we operate through life lessons. And certainly when you came into your first human incarnation, or whatever incarnation you first expressed yourself through, you had no idea how you would operate within that experience. And so you operated in a certain way, and it was recorded within your system, your psyche, your skein, within the skein of your being as a soul, within your energetic field. And you've utilized these conditions, what has been called karma, which is nothing more than conditions that we bring from one life to another in order to grow. So as a soul, your intention is to grow. And you grow through life, within life, so that you can enhance the experience of us all. As you evolve, we evolve. See, I can only go as high, as far, as the last person on the ladder. We have to help each other up. And as souls, we know this. And there's a way we do it, because we know we are energetic beings. And I'm not going to talk much about the soul in this moment, other than the recognition that the divine self is the intentional self. It's the self that intends to grow. It's the self that intends to know of itself, its spiritual nature and character, and evolve it. Evolve it to its most enlightened experience within you, within the fullness of both sides of all equations, so to speak, so that you can gain knowledge. And through that knowledge, you gain greater awareness, and through greater awareness, you grow, and as you grow, we grow. So as a soul, you operate in what I call the divine self, as a being of life. And then there's another layer to yourself, the creator self. See, this is the part of you that realizes that you are not separate from the field that generates your existence, that you are intimately in relation to this field of existence. And as you are drawing this energetic field that generates your existence, and you personalize it within your personal sphere of existence, and then you pulsate it out. Because energy is a wave pattern, and wave patterns pulsate. And through pulsation, you emit the contextualized experience, your biased experience based on your personalized energy field, back into the field of all life. When I talk about the creator self, it is the realization that right now you are creating your future, and you don't know you're doing it. You know, and what I talk about, and I mention this to people, I talk about the 1090 rule of conscious awareness. Not the 1090 rule that you're using your brain, I'm only using 10% of my brain, that's a myth. But I do have a 1090 rule of conscious awareness, and I relate to it this way. When you're looking at any object and you're paying attention to it, your eyes can only take in 16 degrees of focal attention, but as far as the focused attention. But your eyes themselves can take in and receive over 180 degrees thereabouts of visual stimulation. And that is happening outside of your awareness. You are aware of less than 10% of what you're focused on as you're focusing on any object. So I call it the 1090 rule of conscious awareness. You can only be aware of whatever 10% is going on through your attention. After that, the other 90% is happening outside of your awareness. And in the field of psychology, we understand something, that my conscious attention that gives my attention maybe the 10% of my capacity to focus, the other 90% that's pulsating through me neurologically is radiating into life itself. We radiate unconsciously. And in doing that, we are actually in communication to the quantum nature of life. You've heard of the law of attraction. I've mentioned it before in another show, and I've mentioned it this way. This is the science of the law of attraction. I'm not a physicist. I've just taken you could call this a metaphysics, and that's fine. I don't mind the metaphysics because I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated that science is catching up to what is known. And if you noticed, if I'm on my Facebook page, please go to my Facebook page. You're going to see a post I just did recently. It's from Dr. Oz. And in Dr. Oz's program, God love Dr. Oz in this way. I'm not a fan. I don't watch, but when I love it when I see these things come up. He had a neuroscientist come on the program. And right now, what's really great about neuroscience is neuroimaging is really, really big. We're getting really good at it. And what they can do is they can place people in these, what they call functional MRI machines, and they can see the parts of the brain where the blood is flowing. So know what they did? They took a woman through a past life regression, and they saw how her brain operated. And it's awesome. You got to go to my Facebook page and check it out. At Jonathan York's MALMFTCHG. It is an awesome, awesome revelation in that way. Because I talk about the brain. I talk about the fact that the parts of the brain that light up are the same parts that light up when we recall memory. And what's really cool about this particular video is that the part of the brain, they had a baseline. I realize I'm going off on a tangent, and I apologize. I'll get back on track, but this will lead into it. The baseline image of this woman's brain showed baseline activity. And then the activity of her in a past life regression, it showed that all the parts of the brain associated with memory are stimulated. But there's one part especially, that's not only associated with memory, but also is activated in times of spiritual experience. Dig it. So what they're discovering is, as this woman's having this past life regression, not only is her brain activating the same centers that activate when we call memory, but it's also activating this other center, this other part of the brain along the left temporal lobe that is related to spiritual experience. And her reaction to it all is precious, absolutely precious. And she admits at the end, she says, I am changed by this. I am changed by that experience. Again, only can be experienced, can't be explained. But in relation to your creator self and the idea that you are a creator self, I'm going to pause 1 second. Dimitri, I see the time. I'm gonna continue on just a few more minutes. Okay, good. So the idea of your creator self, that you are always in relation. And that's why in the very first program, when I talked about, when the caller called me about, Andrew, called me about her son who's shut her out of her life. And I talked about the idea of working on her radiance when, even though he's not physically there, he is still there. And to work on the radiance, to radiate positively, lovingly towards him. And in time and through time, he will come around. I even related an experience of mine where I actually took that into practice. And it resulted in an awesome outcome for me. And for that which I was in relation to. So the recognition is this. Yes, you are a one self. You are not disconnected from anything. There's no lattice going from me to you to another. No, we are literally a oneness. This is an ocean, an energetic ocean. We are the droplets, individuated, not separate from, but generated by it. Yes, there is a divine nature to all this. There seemingly is this experience that we are growing through as souls, because as I grow as a soul, then life must be growing itself, because I am not separate from life. Neither are you, neither of any of this, in the sense of oneness. And in that way, then what are we? We are truly creator selves. You've heard the term co-creator. That's what we are. And you can do this consciously. And you don't have to do it all throughout the day, hours a day. You just have to stimulate the activity to allow your mind to orient, to calibrate to this awareness. And in doing that, you will find that you can manifest incredible circumstances that lead to outcomes that you spiritually were seeking to create. But there's one more part of you. One more part I'm going to talk about after, Dimitri. I think we're going to take a break. This last part, this is my specialization as well. We're going to talk about the neural self, the ego, and how you, as a soul, can distinguish yourself from its self.
Are you in need of stickers, be it for personal or business use? Then you need to go to StickerU.com right now. That's StickerYOU.com. Sticker U is passionate about providing you and your business with the highest quality custom stickers, labels, decals, and iron-ons. They can even make you temporary tattoos. If you want to stick out from the competition, then you need Sticker U, as Sticker U provides the best platform in the world to create custom products that make you stick.
Have you always wanted to make your own podcast? Or had dreams of becoming the next social media influencer? Don't let office space and equipment be what gets between you and your dreams. New studio space is now available through the Go Network. The Go Network is a multimedia broadcast company that currently hosts live radio shows and podcasts. With microphones to fit all guests, the ability to video record interviews, a stage for band performances, and an editing suite to put your audio and video content to the next level. The Go Network will provide assistance with producing, editing, sponsorship outreach, marketing, and more. You can create the podcast or web series you want with the lower price tag. Visit our studio location in Norwood or our audio suite in Canton. For more information, call us at 857-445-0424 or email us at info@gonet.com. That's info@GEAUXNET.com.
Has your computer seen better days? Is it always freezing and lagging? Are you constantly plagued with pop-ups and viruses? Are you not able to get any work done? You don't need a new computer. You need Phoenix Technology Support. With just one call to Phoenix Technology Support, you will never have to stress over the hassles of taking your computer to a repair shop again. Just leave your computer right where it is and let us come directly to you. Phoenix Technology Support has over 10 years of experience in the industry of customer support and IT solutions, and it's the best place for help with all of your home or business electronics. From gaming systems to tablet setups, smartphones to smart TVs, even business servers and emails. We will help set up or troubleshoot almost any technology in your home or office. So next time you think your technology is at the end of its life, have it rise from the ashes like a phoenix by calling Phoenix Technology Support at 617-658-3240. That's 617-658-3240, or go to www.phoenixtechboston.com.
If you're just hearing about Monk Therapeutic Air for the first time, it's a recyclable diffuser that promotes mood change and life-enhancing effects through our custom blends of essential oils in the ancient practice of aromatherapy. Monk is the simplest aromatherapy device in history. You don't have to know anything about essential oils. We do all that for you. Simply pick the way you want to feel, open your Monk, and breathe in as your Monk diffuses an eclectic blend of essential oils and wild plant extracts. Monk is available in 7 different blends, all of which are organic, natural, and free of nicotine, tobacco, or artificial chemicals. Visit monq.com to learn more.
So who are the real original housewives? Well, Sarah, Esther, Mary, and Ruth. Proclaim this and other Bible references on a shirt at onebodyonespirit.com. One Body, One Spirit is a Christian-themed clothing store for ladies and men that allows believers to express their faith, glorify God, and start conversations through something as simple as a t-shirt. Plus, a portion of every purchase is donated to charities. Their website is spirit.com to view their clothing selections. onebodyonespirit.com.
Aren't you tired of your plain white walls? Do you ever wonder why you feel uninspired at the office or feel like your home lacks character? It's always the same boring walls over and over again. Well, it's time for a change. Visit walldecor3d.com and order wall panels that will turn your walls into beautiful and extravagant looking accent walls. The 3D wall panels give an extra dimension and complement just about any room. Their current selection includes plant fiber wall paneling, MDF wood wall panels, mosaic real wood paneling, and thin slate stone veneer. Remember, that's walldecor3d.com. Order now and add some depth to your life.
Every day, noon and midnight, tune in to Gag Order Network for twice-a-day interview replays of your favorite stars and celebs. Hear about George Clinton's Boston connection.
Where did Dr. Funkenstein obtain his doctorate?
Oh, Berkeley, Boston, yeah, I got my doctorate.
Find out what X Factor winner Melanie Amaro is up to.
Working on music with different producers and meeting with different writers and whatnot. So I'm working. I'm definitely working.
Every day at 12 p.m. and 12 a.m., we're replaying your favorites, like how Anchorman and Saturday Night Live star David Koechner got started.
Then I visited a friend up in Chicago. I went to a show at the Second City. I noticed that they taught classes, and it's like a light bulb went off. That's how you get here. You study.
Giving you more of what you want here on GagOrderNetwork.com. You can also download the TuneIn app, search Gag Order Network, and now you can set your TuneIn autoplay to launch at noon and midnight.
In a world filled with many distractions, would it be incredible to find a way to get lost in your own choosing? Do you love to hear crisp audio from your favorite podcasts? Have you ever felt like the soundtrack to a movie or a video game would sound greater if there was a better way to deliver sound? Bear Dynamic closed-back studio headphones are a perfect tool for any sound enthusiast. Plug in your Bear Dynamic headphones or go on an audio escape. The Bear Dynamic DT770 Pro headphones are a favorite amongst music producers, sound engineers, and broadcasters all over the world. If you're not prepared to compromise on studio sound, visit www.beardynamic.com. That's www.beardynamic.com and get your own pair now. Whether for home or on the go, it is the right product for every need.
I'm Jonathan Yorks, and you're listening to the Past Life Regression Radio Show. Welcome back to the Past Life Regression Radio Show and Spirituality for Souls. We are coming into this next half-hour segment where we're talking about the spirituality of the soul, how we as souls operate through the dimensions of what I call the self, through the dimension of the one self, the divine self that we just talked about, and the creator self. Now, we're going to go much more deeply into all this in future programs. This is just an introduction. But in this introduction, I hope I'm making sense to you. And if I'm not making sense, if you find that anything is conflicting, let me know. Raise your hand. So far, no one's raised their hand yet in this classroom today, so I have to assume I must be really, really, really clear. And everything's making complete sense. If it is, fantastic. How awesome. But as far as if I'm not, if there is clarification, or if you have a question about something, please let me know. You can call at 857-366-5444. You can text me at 617-875-6686, or you can message on Facebook Live. And thank you very much, everybody, for the messages. And one thing I forgot to mention in Unfinished Business, I get these Facebook messages, and I love that people are telling me they're there, because you know what? It feeds me. It lets me know that you are, well, just lets me know you're there, of course. But also, if just so you know, if there's anything I can respond to through the Facebook Messenger, let me know. Absolutely, I'll be responding. No, I don't look at it while I'm talking to you, because it's way too distracting for me to even look at myself or to receive or do that sort of thing. I just want to be focused on you as I'm talking with you in this moment. So as far as, this next part that we're going to get into, I'm going to talk about the neural self. Now, this is the big, big part of you. Granted, creator self, absolutely. It is happening. It's happening right now. You are radiating into the field of life, and life is a responsive field. It is unbiased. It only brings to you that which you radiate or project into it. It is a reflecting field. Oh, it doesn't care if you do or do not like something, or if you think that life does not want to give you something. It doesn't work that way. It only responds. Literally, the quantum field is a field of reflection. It is a giant conjuring mirror in that way. And we conjure life itself through the force of our radiance, the force of thought, the force of feeling, and the force of image, all existent within our mind. And in our mind and being, and the expressions of our being as beings of life through these four fields, through the one self and the divine self and the creator self, we end up being human, and we experience ourselves in what I call the neural self. Now, the neural self, just so you know, is another name for the ego. That's it. When someone says, well, they're talking out of their, from their ego, or they're not being really egotistical or anything, that is it. It is your neural self. So what is the neural self? The neural self is the self of your brain, pure and simple. It is the self of your brain, because your brain has a consciousness, just like your body has a consciousness. I talked about that last show. I said, place your hand over your heart and, just send love to the body, because even though if it's not participating or cooperating well with you, let it know that it's all right, that you love it, that you are thrilled, that you have been with it for whatever it is that you are with, wherever it is, however long, for whatever's going on. Send radiance to the field of your body. But there's another psyche, another consciousness taking place within you too. The neural self, the self of the brain. And I'm going to talk about the psychology of the brain in this moment, because the brain is a survival beast. See, the brain does not get to the human life form unless it knows how to survive. And there's wonderful, that's the underlying psychology of the brain, the foundation, everything that comes from your brain is all around survivalism. And if you think of the brain as an evolutionary organ, not talking about singular celled organisms that with little cilia trying to feel the environment around them and creating this relationship that they're having through movement eventually evolving into what are these multiple celled life forms that we are, these organisms of humans. But it was the brain. The brain is what generated the body. The brain is what created the experience of a vehicle that it can actually move through its environment. But the brain has its own consciousness, and its consciousness is survivalism. And in its very primitive forms, its survival is based on its sensorium, based on the senses of pleasure and pain. And as the brain evolved from a brain stem into more complex features, into the limbic system and a very primitive cortical structures where of the cortexes, the prefrontal and other lobes. In the limbic system, that next evolution of the brain is where it started to process its feelings. Now, the brain's a very incredible organism. It's an incredible consciousness because it had to perceive threat in its life, in its environment, and it had to know how to protect its threat. And I'm going to offer you something right now. The brain research, at least one, it seems to implicate this, that your brain operates through two forms of temperament, high reactive and low reactive. The high reactive brains are the brains of the outgoing ones, the extroverts. The low reactive brains are the brains of the introverts, the more internal ones. And depending on your brain type, and it's along a spectrum, and let me tell you, your brain temperament is like fingerprints. It's like your unique frequency as a soul. Your brain's temperament is unique in the world of all temperaments. It is yours, and it was chosen by you. And from the time within the womb, when the temperament of your brain started to get wired as it was processing the experience, the environment, the stimuli, coming through the senses into it was getting wired with its conditions. Now, I'm going to give you a little something just so you know. As I work on this and as I've developed this understanding, I've also developed what I call soul self-psychology. To me, it's the next wave in psychology. It's the realization that, yes, you, the soul, that you are here right now, and actually you're the mind of this machine, story for another day. But you, the soul, are the center of this self. And the self that you are is filtered through the medium of the brain. You are not the brain. The brain does not create your consciousness. As a being of life, you are filtered. You exist within this experience of yourself. And you are filtered through the consciousness of the brain and the body. And the brain's consciousness, it develops through its temperament. And there'll be much more discussion of the neural self and how the brain actually develops and organizes and categorizes and things as such, because this is essential information for you to know. Not because you need to be educated like a brain scientist, no. Like a lay person, like a spiritual divine being in a human experience who just needs to know some of the foundation of information so that you get how this organ that you are operating through and the organism that you are within, how it is operating, how it functions, so you can better discern your voice from it. So how do I discern my voice from this organism called the brain, this survival beast? There's a really cool thing going on in brain science these days. One is this, that in brain science they've discovered that for every one negative event, it takes 5 positive events of equal intensity to offset that neurological structure of that negative event. So it is a 1-to-5 ratio. One negative event can only be offset by 5 positive events. And face it, how many people have you known that you thought were good people and nice people or anything else, be it privately or publicly, and they do something negative? And your whole opinion of them changes. It will never, ever, ever be the same again until you witness them over time and through time performing the positive reflection, expression of their being. So the brain itself is highly negativistic. And the ego is a negativistic machine. The ego expresses through negativism. So when you hear the I can't, it won't, they never will, it is not you. It is your brain communicating the conditions within it to you. As souls, we are not negativistic. Or if we tend towards vibrations as such, we will learn and grow. But as souls, we understand one thing. This organism, this brain that we operate through, it's a negativistic beast. See, it has to perceive threat in its environment. It has to either fight or flight. It has to react. And in doing that, this organ called the brain perceives negativity and holds onto it, unrelentingly holds onto negativity. But when you hear it, it is not you. Because brain science tells us another thing. See, what you don't realize is that your brain neurologically collapses a thought or a choice upwards of 7 seconds before you're aware of it. Now, that is amazing to me. And one day, when I come back and we talk much more about this, I'll recite the research, because there's no use of me informing you of any of this, of any of the stuff we've talked about in the last number of shows, without providing the background, the research, the evidence of such things. Right now, this is all an introduction. Again, you don't have to bite into the whole apple here and all that, but no, there is an apple here I'm showing. And if you choose to bite, you can nibble, you can take a big chomp, or you can just look at the apple and choose to wait for further shows to see if you're going to take a big bite out of it or not. But the recognition is, as far as your brain, there is upwards of a 7-second delay. See, you are not the thinker of thought. You're not the chooser of a choice. You do not make a choice in the moment. You receive the neurological impressions from the brain, and what you do, you choose what to do with the thought or the choice that was made from your brain. And I give this as an example. If you've ever been on a diet and you've been really good and you've been really, really getting to your optimal weight and everything, and you go to an event and you see this incredible table of food that you love, be it dessert or whatever else, and you hear inside you, oh, go ahead. You've been great. Go get that piece. Go have that cake. But as you stand there and you hear this thought, you make another choice. And in your mind you say, nah, not today. Because I've been so good, I know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And even though this will be instant gratification, by the way, the brain's all about instant gratification. All about instant gratification. It does not want to delay gratification. Delayed gratification is actually you, the soul. It's not the brain itself, so to speak. It wants it, and it wants it now. That's the way it works. And what do you do in that moment of looking at the dessert table? You choose not to get a dessert that day, and you walk away. That's an amazing thing. See, you did not create the thought. You received it, and you chose otherwise. So one way you know your neural self is operating is through negativism. The other way is through defense mechanisms, because it has to defend itself in order to survive. That's what it's all about. See, what's happened is it took the sensorium of pleasure and pain, and it translated it through its limbic region as fear and joy. Fear is threat. Joy is you move towards the things that are pleasant to you, that are joyful for you. And the things that are painful become fearful, and you move away from them. And as the cognitive parts of your brain start to form, you form mental structures around it. And from the time you were in your mother's womb up to about 6 years old, you could not censor information. You were just getting neurologically wired based on the temperament of your brain. You were nothing more than a passenger in the vehicle. And all you did as a child was act out the neural stimulation and the brain's temperament to all those around you. Until about 6 years old, when you're about 5, 6, when your prefrontal cortex kicked into full functionality, and then you went into a mode what we call concrete operations. And then you took all these fears and these likes and dislikes and loves and hates and fears and faiths, and you started to put values on them, cognitive values, through ethical and moral consideration. Ethical, right and wrong. Moral, good and bad. And that's how this brain works. And all you did from the time of 6 years old, perhaps up until now, is you went towards the likes and went away from the dislikes. You went towards the loves and went away from the hates. And you went towards the faiths and you averted your fears. And you created mental forms around them that have become patterned within you. But what you don't know is this. This brain of yours, and maybe you do, is neuroplastic. You are every day throughout your entire life, and sure, it accelerates at certain times and it slows down at other times, but still, every day throughout your life, you're either strengthening, weakening, or creating new neural connections. That's a fascination, and you can do it consciously. And as you do it consciously, you can activate so many other aspects of your being of self. But what you need to know about the brain you are operating through, that this organ that you operate within, it's its own consciousness. But you are not the brain. You are filtered through it. But you chose the brain you have. And you chose all the negativism of the brain. And you chose all the experiences that would stimulate the neural programming of your brain, the neural circuitry of your brain. As a soul, you know this. As a human, you are pained by this. But this pain isn't meant to oppress you. Psychological pain is not meant to thwart your life. It's meant to guide you. You know, if you have a mood disorder to me, as best as I can study it, a mood disorder is the temperament of a high reactive brain, the brain of an extrovert. And if you have a mood disorder, then you have to get moving, because that's what extroverts do. They go hiking, they go mountain climbing, they go moving. They move. And so you have to move, and your life has to move, and you constantly have to be in a state of movement, progression, whatever it may be. So if you're dealing with depression, of course, folks, again, nothing's absolute. It's all along the spectrum. So I'm just giving you this kind of just the features in that way. But nothing is absolute. We are a combination of many facets. Even the facets of temperament, right? You know, there's extroverts, there's introverts, and there's ambiverts, people with both qualities. But if you are tend towards the side of extroversion, then your tendency would be more towards mood disorder and depression. If that is the case, then move. You have to move, because you are a movement being. Now, the introverted ones, the ones with the low reactive brains, these are the more insular ones. These are the ones who process life in a very insular way. You know, they're very comfortable in their own space and things as such. These are the ones in which you will see anxiety. The irony. Anxiety because in their expression, what causes tension within them, stressors within them, is that exposure, is that publication of themselves in that way. So this is how you can know if you have perhaps a more of a high reactive brain, extroverted type, versus a low reactive brain, based on the psychological malady. And I call them maladies, not conditions, because these conditions or these maladies, these are malleable. If you have depression, you're not subject to depression unless it is genetically coded within you. But there's something I know about genetics. I look forward to having a geneticist on the program. They are switches. You can switch them on and you can switch them off. And psyche is very powerful. We'll talk about some of that in a future program. But for this program, just recognizing that how your brain operates. And I mentioned defense mechanisms. Well, here they are. Denial, doubt, minimization of self or other, and emotional rationalization. Why something wouldn't take place in your life because it never took place in your life. So if I've never had love in my life, then I emotionally rationalize, I'll never have love in my future as well. If I don't get along with someone from all throughout my entire life, I'll never get along with them in my future as well. Emotional rationalization, because it's illogical, because that is an untruth. You are not subject to one experience or another. You're not, you can either sit here or you can sit there. Your choice. And the same thing when it comes to this experience of knowing your defense mechanism. So notice what you do. Notice when your defense mechanisms get kicked up. Notice when you move into denial or doubt. Notice when you minimize yourself or others. Notice when you're using emotional rationalization to maintain a position that you feel qualifies everything you've ever experienced up to that moment in relation to whatever it is that you have this position about. It is not meant to be that way. Life is not static, and you are not static. And if you are challenged, if you feel neurological discomfort through the pains of feelings, through the pains of thoughts, then this is a guidance system of yours, the guidance system of ours. And as souls, this is how we operate. We operate through these 4 dimensions of self. Excuse me, my mouth gets very dry, and I stopped drinking coffee before I came in here because I felt that was drying my mouth, but I seem to be able to dry up anyway. So give me one moment as I take a sip. Okay. All righty. I'm back. And by the way, Mom, no, it's not a cup. Okay, I'll get a cup. So anyways, coming back to this. These are the 4 dimensions of yourself, of your as a being of light that you operate through. The one self, the divine self, the creator self, and the neural self. And we're going to go on a break in a little bit, just a few moments. Hold on, Dimitri. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, if no one's raised their hand, if no one's asked a question, then what I'm going to talk about is how you can activate these four dynamics, dimensions of yourself through a very simple process that I may have mentioned before, and I'll mention again. So again, if you have to go, you can go. If you have to leave the program, you can go. You can go see the recording on Facebook, on my Facebook page at Jonathan Yorks, MALMFTCHT. I'm developing a YouTube page, and I'm downloading now, but I want to make certain I have it all up and going before I invite people to come in. I'll also be downloading on the iTunes and other kinds of podcast formats. If you have questions and you're unable to ask them now, you can please feel free to call me. 617-875-6686. Call me with your questions. It's my personal number to my business phone. Or if you'd like, go to jonathanyorks.com or mysoulmyself.com. Both lead to the same website. When you get to the website, you're going to see like my opening page, which is always my advertisement for the next show. But then you can click on one of the the links in the bar above that you can go to the home page or Past Life or anything else. There's a contact page. You can contact me. You can set up a time to talk with me. We can have an initial telephone consult. It's a complimentary telephone call. There is no charge for such a call. We spend about 20 minutes thereabouts. I just want to get to know you, hear why, get to know why you're calling and seeing how I can be helpful for you. So, this is the Past Life Regression radio show and Spirituality for Souls. We are here every Wednesday from 7 to 9 at the Go Network. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Have you always wanted to make your own podcast? Or had dreams of becoming the next social media influencer? Don't let office space and equipment be what gets between you and your dreams. New studio space is now available through the Go Network. The Go Network is a multimedia broadcast company that currently hosts live radio shows and podcasts. With microphones to fit all guests, the ability to video record interviews, a stage for band performances, and an editing suite to put your audio and video content to the next level. The Go Network will provide assistance with producing, editing, sponsorship outreach, marketing, and more. You can create the podcast or web series you want with the lower price tag. Visit our studio location in Norwood or our audio suite in Canton. For more information, call us at 857-445-0424 or email us at info@gonet.com. That's info@GEAUXNET.com.
Every day, noon and midnight, tune in to Gag Order Network for twice-a-day interview replays of your favorite stars and celebs. Hear about George Clinton's Boston connection.
Where did Dr. Funkenstein obtain his doctorate?
Oh, Berkeley, Boston, yeah, I got my doctorate.
Find out what X Factor winner Melanie Amaro is up to.
Working on music with different producers and meeting with different writers and whatnot. So I'm working. I'm definitely working.
Every day at 12 p.m. and 12 a.m., we're replaying your favorites, like how anchorman and Saturday Night Live star David Koechner got started.
Then I visited a friend up in Chicago. I went to a show at the Second City. I noticed that they taught classes, and it's like a light bulb went off. That's how you get here. You study.
Giving you more of what you want here on GagOrderNetwork.com. You can also download the TuneIn app, search Gag Order Network, and now you can set your TuneIn autoplay to launch at noon and midnight.
Aren't you tired of your plain white walls? Do you ever wonder why you feel uninspired at the office or feel like your home lacks character? It's always the same boring walls over and over again. Well, it's time for a change. Visit walldecore3d.com and order wall panels that will turn your walls into beautiful and extravagant looking accent walls. The 3D wall panels give an extra dimension and complement just about any room. Their current selection includes plant fiber wall paneling, MDF wood wall panels, mosaic real wood paneling, and thin slate stone veneer. Remember, that's walldecore3d.com. Order now and add some depth to your life. In a world filled with many distractions, would it be incredible to find a way to get lost in your own choosing? Do you love to hear crisp audio from your favorite podcasts? Have you ever felt like the soundtrack to a movie or video game would sound greater if there was a better way to deliver sound? Bear Dynamic closed-back studio headphones are a perfect tool for any sound enthusiast. Plug in your Bear Dynamic headphones and go on an audio escape. The Bear Dynamic DT770 Pro headphones are a favorite amongst music producers, sound engineers, and broadcasters all over the world. If you're not prepared to compromise on studio sound, visit www.beardynamic.com. That's www.beardynamic.com and get your own pair now. Whether for home or on the go, it is the right product for every need.
I'm going to the hardware store.
Oh, will you pick up 800 lumen bulbs?
800 more flowers? The neighbors will think we're wacky.
Not flower bulbs, light bulbs.
Come on, Dad. Lumens tell you how bright the bulb is. We can replace our 60-watt bulbs with energy-saving bulbs that give off about 800 lumens.
So, we'll save money.
Right.
Got it. 800 lumens and more savings.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Has your computer seen better days? Is it always freezing and lagging? Are you constantly plagued with pop-ups and viruses? Are you not able to get any work done? You don't need a new computer. You need Phoenix Technology Support. With just one call to Phoenix Technology Support, you will never have to stress over the hassles of taking your computer to a repair shop again. Just leave your computer right where it is and let us come directly to you. Phoenix Technology Support has over 10 years of experience in the industry of customer support and IT solutions, and it's the best place for help with all of your home or business electronics. From gaming systems to tablet setups, smartphones to smart TVs, even business servers and emails. We will help set up or troubleshoot almost any technology in your home or office. So next time you think your technology is at the end of its life, have it rise from the ashes like a phoenix by calling Phoenix Technology Support at 617-658-3240. That's 617-658-3240, or go to www.phoenixtechboston.com.
Are you in need of stickers, be it for personal or business use? Then you need to go to stickeru.com right now. That's stickeryou.com. Sticker U is passionate about providing you and your business with the highest quality custom stickers, labels, decals, and iron-ons. They can even make you temporary tattoos. If you want to stick out from the competition, then you need Sticker U, as Sticker U provides the best platform in the world to create custom products that make you stick.
If you're just hearing about Monk Therapeutic Air for the first time, it's a recyclable diffuser that promotes mood change and life-enhancing effects through our custom blends of essential oils in the ancient practice of aromatherapy. Monk is the simplest aromatherapy device in history. You don't have to know anything about essential oils. We do all that for you. Simply pick the way you want to feel, open your Monk, and breathe in as your Monk diffuses an eclectic blend of essential oils and wild plant extracts. Monk is available in 7 different blends, all of which are organic, natural, and free of nicotine, tobacco, or artificial chemicals. Visit monq.com to learn more.
So who are the real original housewives? Well, Sarah, Esther, Mary, and Ruth. Proclaim this and other Bible references on a shirt at onebodyonespirit.com. One Body, One Spirit is a Christian-themed clothing store for ladies and men that allows believers to express their faith, glorify God, and start conversations through something as simple as a t-shirt. Plus, a portion of every purchase is donated to charities. Their website is onebody.spirit.com to view their clothing selections. onebodyonespirit.com.
I'm Jonathan Yorks, and you're listening to the Past Life Regression Radio Show. Welcome back to the Past Life Regression Radio Show and Spirituality for Souls. We are on the last, we're going to say about 20 minutes of our program tonight. And that's okay, because this last part of the program is going to be a little bit of a repeat about something I've already mentioned with a little more emphasis in it as well. So up to this point, we talked about the 4 dimensions of the self, the fact that we as beings of life are expressed through 4 dimensions of self, through the one self expression, which helps us understand our relationship with one another, through our divine self expression, which helps us understand the intention of our lives and the relationship we have to life. Then the creator self. This is the self of capacity that your capacity is creator, that the body you have is a shape-shifting body, that the brain you have is a shape-shifting brain, that the life around you is morphic. It is a morphic field. Yes, we exist within a temporal field that slows the expression of energy down and crystallize it within the dimension from which we exist within. But it's not the way it works in the quantum. It is an instantaneous response system. And so as a creator self, your capacity to create is ongoing. It never stops. Waking or sleeping, your brain never stops pulsating into the field. You can do it consciously, and you can drive this car of yours. Or you can do it unconsciously and be driven by the car and be subject to the circumstances of your life as opposed to creating them. Your choice. That's how powerful you are as a creator. And then I spoke of the neural self. And I talked about the neural self as the self of the brain, what we would call in psychology the ego. And this is a survival self. This is a survival beast, is what I say. Not that I don't want to be denigrating to the brain. It's an awesome organ, really. Think about it. I mean, you know, if you look at it outside the body, you go, oh my gosh, this is what's generating the whole experience of mind and movement and machine as a human life being. That's going to be incredible. This, 3 pound, whatever pound mass it is. It's amazing. And they're just now starting to crack the code. And through neuroimaging, and as it gets more sophisticated, and as more people who have the interest in not just the theoretical underpinnings of metaphysics, but the scientific underpinnings, to find, does science corroborate? Does it demonstrate? Does it illustrate any of this and any kind of as valid? Is it affirming it? And I mentioned that Dr. Oz video. That's uncanny. You know, never mind that the parts of your brain that recall memory are stimulated when you do past life recall, but the one area in your brain, the one specific area associated with spiritual experience, also lights up. That's incredible. Of course, I'd want to see more research. I want to see when and when not this area is activated. Of course, I'd love to see more neuroimaging, and I can't wait until science really wants to dip deeply into the pool and see if they can break the code of the soul, brain, body phenomena. And there is a thing called microtubules in the body. And there's one little thing called quantum biology. Look it up sometime, because we're gonna have a show about that, about perhaps how souls actually are joining with the body through what we call microtubules in every cell. But story for another day. But in the neural self, the survival self of the brain, these are your conditions. This is where all your conditions exist. Like I said, your likes and your hates, your fears and your faiths. And what else I have? Your likes and your hates, your fears and your faiths. I can't think of the other one in the moment. Oh, and your loves and your likes and and your loves and your hates. Whatever. You know what I said in the last segment. In doing that, the recognition is that you can see this activity within you. You can feel it. You express it. But you don't have to buy into it. You have to, as I said, as I just already mentioned, there is a delay. And in this delay pattern between the crystallized neurological coalescence of thought and your response, you choose what to do with it. If you choose through your human mind, you will always have conflict. If you choose through your spiritual mind, you'll always have love. I say that to my wife, and I'm sorry, Linda, I'm going to expose something to us in this moment. We are fighting, we are having conflict. We both know that we're relating to each other through our roles. And every time I relate to another through my role, I am subject to the fluctuations of temperament of my brain. And in the fluctuating temperament of my brain, I could be feeling warm and fuzzy, or I can be activated feeling highly negativistic. And when we're having moments of contention, when we're in such deep disconnect, we don't get deep, but we get a disconnect like any couple does as they're learning and growing with each other. ebb and flow, the breath of life in and out. We have all these moments. This is how life life exists as a rhythm, as a pulse, as a frequency field. But in that moment, I know one thing. If I relate to her through my role, as we relate to each other through our roles, we will always have conflict. But as we relate to each other through our souls, we will always have love. And that's your responsibility. See, because within your divine mind, that's the mind of meaning, the mind of purpose, the mind of intention. And anyone who comes across your path that seemingly is oppositional to you, because we understand the oneness of life is all relational, that helps us understand the relationship of life. This other one is there for you to grow. And if you choose to see them through opposition, then you deny your own growth. You deny yourself, the choice you made to be the one you are being in relation to the one you are in relation to, and be activated by the experience of the feelings and thoughts moving through you. And if you choose to see it through the human mind, the survivalistic mind, you won't grow. And you'll carry karma into the next lifetime, and then, really? Do you want to repeat patterns in the next lifetime when you can address them now? And you can. Because it's within your capacity to do it, or you would not have this problem. See, you can't have a condition that is not absolutely valued by you. You cannot have a problem that you cannot resolve, that you cannot grow through. It is innate in life that within you is the answers to everything. And your neural self is your conditioned self. I think I just said that before, but I'll say it again. And in these conditions, and in this delay, when you hear the negativistic thought, it's up to you to pause. It's up to you to, when you hear the thought, when I was going to do this radio show, and honestly, my karma, my life, my thing about, never mind coming out of like a spiritual closet or anything like that, was expressing my voice. And in the field of psychology, I would go in these interviews, and they would love the band. They would love how my view of psychology, and it wasn't as developed as it is now, but it was developing back then. And I had a spiritual relationship to life even back then. Not as much as I do now in that regard. But they would just love it. And they'd say, you know what, we want to have you in the clinic. And I'd go into these clinics, and we would have these round tables where we'd do these case studies and go over our files. And I would offer thought, and they would turn to me and say, not here. And I'm looking at them like I'm totally confused. I mean, it's not like I was talking outside the field of psychology. I was just offering different framings of it, perspectives, but within the actual spectrum of what we were doing in that moment. And so the suppression of my own voice has been a huge karmic experience for me. And so what do? I throw myself and I expose myself. And before that first show, man, I got to tell you, I could feel so deeply all the anxiety, everything within me around the suppression. And my thoughts, the thoughts that emerged from the feeling were, no one cares. No one's going to listen. No one desires to know this. I mean, there was a lot of negative all around that my voice would not be heard. You know what I did? I would listen to it, because now I'm a little wiser in my mind, and I go, check you out, listen to you, you're awful. But I'd laugh when I'd say you're awful. You're awful, man. Listen what you're doing. But I know one thing. See, my negative voice is a defense. It's a defense against something that I potentially can do. And so you can't have that negative voice. I never will, they never will, he or she never will, unless potentially within the system of your psyche as a soul, you are capable of the positive side of it. So you have a relationship that's highly negativistic. You can't have that relationship unless within that is the positivistic expression of that relationship. Now, I talked about this 10-minute, I talked about my reminder rock, I think in the first or second show, but that's not what I'm going to talk about right now. I really want to emphasize this point for you, that the recognition is that these negativistic thoughts, these aren't your opposers, just like people aren't your opposers. They were chosen by you. These are conditions that you chose to grow through. So when you hear them, you know who's driving the car. Because whoever gets to drive the car, like I think I've said in other shows, gets to play the radio. And you know when your brain is driving the car through the conditions through the conditions within it, when you hear the messages being played over the radio. And when you hear negativistic messages, it's up to you to intervene, to not buy into it. When I do, I'm like, hey man, how did you get into the driver's seat? I was just looking around, enjoying the scenery, and I realized I've got these negative thoughts running through my mind. Oh my gosh, you snuck over there. Now, I'm not going to kick my ego out of the car. No, I'm going to understand it. I'm the wise mind in this being. We have the capacity for enlightened thought. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the term called enlightened thought. And when you hear that negativistic voice, laugh to yourself, even though you may be tormented, and I'm sorry if you feel so oppressed by it, but it is not a voice of oppression or thoughts and feelings of oppression. No, they are guidance. It's up to you to be wiser and see them as guidance, but it was chosen by you. So as you love your body, love your brain. Because, you hear the terms inner child work. See, your brain, once it hits 6 years old, it's pretty much been formed, and it's just going to go on and continue to express itself. But in your older self, be it 50 or 70 or 80 or 40, you're just a bigger, older version of your younger you. Your 2-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 10-year-old, they haven't gone anywhere, even though it feels like another lifetime ago. No, not at all. You're a bigger, older version. But your brain is 6 years old. And as far as its emotionality, as far as its emotional reactivity. Don't deny it. Don't dispose of it. Love it. Understand that these are your conditions that were chosen by you as a soul so that you can grow. So when I hear my negativistic thought, John, no one's listening, no one cares, I go, listen to you, no way. And I go, It doesn't matter. We're doing it anyway. We're not doing it for others to listen to. We're not doing it for others. In that moment when I started, now, well, as I expressed last week, what I discover is this, that what I do not only has to have meaning for me, but it has to have meaning for the others that listen to this show, that it speaks to their soul. And that's what I'm seeking to speak to. I'm not speaking to your human self. Listen to the defense mechanism that gets kicked in as I talk. I know there's someone getting defense have their defenses, and they hear them. It could be a diminishment or minimization, and that may be your primary defense mechanism, or it may be a defense mechanism that you operate just in these kind of moments. We all have denial and doubt, and minimization and diminishment. We all have emotional rationalization, but which one is primary within you? Like the temperament of your brain. Are you more high reactive or low reactive? We're all along the spectrum, but where are you balanced? Where are you most dominant in? And it's the same thing as we work with our brains in this way. So when you're having the experience and you feel the negativism and you have the defense mechanisms kicking within you, be wiser than them. Be the being that you are, and know that the spirituality of your being is expressed through the realization that you are, that these conditions of yours are chosen by you to guide you, to grow you, and never to oppose you. Be it thoughts of mind, of feeling, events, or external factors. Your radiance will affect the outcome of change that you seek to create around any condition you have. So in that recognition, your neural self, it is not an opposer of your being. It is a guide. And when you know how to use its guidance, then you thrive. Because in the world of spirituality, we thrive. In the world of the human psyche, we survive. So I hope that was all very helpful. I was going to talk about the little, the way of altering in neural patterns and the way of going a little further into it. I'm going to hold off on that when we have one program just dedicated to the neural self, where we'll discuss the neural self and how you can best not only discover your conditions, your neural patterns, and how you and what is conditioned within you, but also what to do with them. So today, as much as I want to talk about everything, this was the What to Know and How to Grow show. This is an introduction. What to know, you need to know that you are a being of life operating through 4 dimensions of self, oneself, that indicates your relationship to life itself. Divine self, which indicates your intention. Creator self, which indicates your capacity. And neural self, which indicates your conditions. And they're all existing at the same time. And you, as a being of life, expressed through all four of these fields. At least these are the four I've come to know. If there are more, I'll discover them through time, but these are the ones I've come to know based on my human experience, based on my background in psychology, based on my understanding of the brain. You know, the very first chapter in psychology and intro psychology is all about how the brain grows and develops. Human psychology is the psychology of your brain. That is ego psychology. But that's not who you are. The brain is a medium of your consciousness, a medium of consciousness with its own temperament, its own consciousness itself. It's a filter through which you as a soul are expressing through, because you chose some conditions you are going to have to grow through. And when you get that, how these four fields of expression all relate to your journey as a soul, well then, you've got the combination to the lock. And now you can open your life up. Because let me tell you, when you step onto that path worth taking, you live the life worth living. And everything I've looked for, everything I've seemed to understand has kind of coalesced to this realization, to the way we express through life, how these four fields and their relationship and what they indicate to us. Of course, in other shows, when we get more deeply into the individual aspects, we'll go much more deeply into what they are, how they're constructed, how they operate, and how they relate. Of course. And of course, I'll go much more deeply into practical parts as well. Because living in the conceptual is only half the knowing. You have to live also through the experiential, or at least through the expressional. Expressional. Not a word, but I'm using it today. Through expression. Then you fulfill knowing. And that's what this is all about. So in today's show, as we discuss all about the spirituality of the soul and the dimensions of yourself that you're operating through, I hope that it was helpful. I hope it made sense. But nobody raised their hand. And I have to think, boy, I must really be making a lot of sense here, which is awesome. Or, boy, the class isn't ready to raise their hands just yet. And that's totally fine by me, because I love speaking about this sort of stuff with you all. Now, next week's show, I got to tell you, that's going to be a surprise. It's undefined. I was thinking of doing Life Between Lives Regression, the process I take my clients through, and then enhancing a little more Life Between Lives Regression work, but I'm not certain yet. So stay tuned. I'm also thinking of next week's show is just making it a question and answer show about anything. Past life regression, life between lives regression, the spirituality of the soul, or any other matters like deity or anything else. I don't know where I'm going to go with this one yet as far as the next show. But if I do a question and answer show, come on out of the closet with me, will you? And send me messages, call up, let's converse. And also, just so you know, this show, I provide counsel. I want to help you see your life through your spiritual eyes. I want to help you understand whatever challenge you have through your spiritual mind, through the dimensions of yourself that are operating. This is how I counsel my clients. I get human psychology. I get the 5 psychological states that operate within the human brain. The existential, the intrapsychic, the cognitive affective, the behavioral and humanistic. I get that. And I've developed a program that stimulates all 5 of those states of psychological experience within the human brain that will actually alter and change the brain for good in that sense. But in that way, that is not the bottom line to all this. The bottom line for me is that you are this spiritual being and you have your own spirituality. We all have our own spirituality as souls as far as the encompassing realization that we are on a spiritual journey, that we operate through dimensions of self, and that through these dimensions of self, we are here to express to discover ourselves. And as we discover ourselves, because of the oneness of all life, life discovers itself. It's beyond my capacity to know it in its depth and dimensions. I can only let you know or express it based on what I've come to know from it. Hopefully, this is being helpful for you. I will be coming back next Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. I'm going to be sending out, it'd be either email blast or Facebook, what the focus will be on next week's show. Stay tuned because it's going to be some good stuff. And also, just so you know, because I know everybody likes this sort of stuff, I've come across a lot of psychics, a lot of mediums in my time. I look forward to having these people on the show. We're going to be doing a show about near-death experience, and we're going to have people on the show perhaps, or at least calling the show, who have gone through near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. I may on the Halloween show, I don't know, maybe I'll have some ghost hunters in here and do some ghost hunting tales and things as such. I don't know what's going to come up, but through the first 4 shows, the introductory show about how I got here and why I'm doing this show, the second show, which is all about past life regression, intro to that, the third show, an intro to life between lives, but more about the intro to the afterlife and what Dr. Newton helps us understand, and much more about that for future shows. And of course, the fourth show, an intro to the spirituality of the soul, and how kind of the paradigm in which I counsel my clients through. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the changes I've witnessed in people. We'll talk much more about that. Again, thank you very much for being a part of this show. You can go to my website on jonathanyorks.com or mysoulmyself.com if you want to send me a request for initial telephone consult, totally complimentary and no charge. I love spending time, and I'm more than happy to hear what you're seeking and how I can maybe helpful. You can also call me at 617-875-6686, or even text me if you want me to text you back. You can also message me on Facebook. I don't book through my appointments through Facebook. I'm not sophisticated and savvy enough to know how that works yet. I'm developing a new website. I hope to have all this much more integrated in time, and hopefully have the episodes of the show available to you. Again, you can go to Facebook Live and see this recorded, or if you want, you can go to a YouTube page that I will let you know when it is available. It's called the Past Life Regression Radio Show. It'll have all the videos on there. I'm also going to be downloading as a podcast, so you can just listen to it through like an iTunes or other kind of podcast site. Okay, it is over, 9 o'clock. So, thank you again. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week. And of course, be wonderfully well.